America builds stadiums like it builds relationships. Big, expensive, and with absolutely no plan for what happens when it's over. Billions of dollars, millions of fans, decades of touchdowns, home runs, and championship parades. And then one day, the team leaves, the lights go out, and 80,000 seats start collecting dust, rain, and pigeons. Today, 10 famous American stadiums that were abandoned and left to rot. And number one, they called it the eighth wonder of the world. Now it's the eighth wonder of why nobody can figure out what to do with it. Let's get into it and bring tissues. Some of these hit different. Number 10, Pontiac Silverdome. We're starting with a stadium that once held the largest crowd in wrestling history and ended up selling for less than a used car. The Pontiac Silverdome, Pontiac, Michigan. When this place opened in 1975, it was the biggest stadium in the NFL. 82,000 seats, a fiberglass roof held up entirely by air pressure, the first of its kind. It looked like a spaceship landed in Michigan and decided to host football games. The kind of building that made you feel like the future had arrived early and chosen Pontiac as its landing pad. The Detroit Lions played here for 27 seasons. Elvis performed here. Led Zeppelin shook the walls. The Rolling Stones rolled through. The 1994 FIFA World Cup played games inside this building. And on March 29, 1987, 93,000 people packed in for WrestleMania 3, the event where Hulk Hogan body slammed Andre the Giant. That attendance record stood for decades. 93,000 humans in one building watching two men in spandex pretend to fight. America at its absolute peak. Then the Lions left for Ford Field in 2002, and the Silverdome just sat there. The roof deflated, literally. The air pressure system failed and the whole thing collapsed like a souffle that gave up on life. In 2009, the city put the Silverdome up for auction. The winning bid? $583,000. For a stadium that cost $55 million to build. That's less than the average American home. You could have bought the largest NFL stadium in history for the price of a 3-bedroom in New Jersey. After years of failed revival attempts and slow decay, rain pouring through the collapsed roof, seats rotting, turf turning into a swamp, the Silverdome was demolished in 2017. And what sits on that hallowed ground now? An Amazon distribution center. From WrestleMania to warehouse. From Hulk Hogan to cardboard boxes. The circle of American life. From 93,000 screaming wrestling fans to guys in orange vests scanning barcodes. Somewhere, Hulk Hogan is crying into his bandana. And that was only number 10. Subscribe, because number 1 was literally called the eighth wonder of the world. And it's still rotting. Right now. Alright, next. Number 9, Tiger Stadium. Tiger Stadium, Detroit, Michigan. And if the Silverdome made you sad, this one's going to hurt worse. Tiger Stadium stood at the corner of Michigan and Trumbull for 87 years. 87. From 1912 to 1999, the Detroit Tigers played baseball here through 2 world wars, the Great Depression, the Civil Rights Movement, and the birth of Motown. This wasn't just a stadium. It was Detroit's autobiography, written in concrete and grass. Babe Ruth hit his 700th career home run here. Ty Cobb played here. Al Kaline, Kirk Gibson's legendary walk-off. Every great moment in Tigers history happened on this dirt. Then in 1999, the Tigers moved to Comerica Park, and Tiger Stadium was left behind like a loyal dog that got too old to play fetch. The city couldn't decide what to do with it. Preservationists fought to save it. Developers wanted to tear it down. Politicians debated while the building rotted. For years, Tiger Stadium sat abandoned in the middle of Detroit, a city that was already full of abandoned things. The seats rusted, the concourse flooded, weeds grew through the dugouts. The press box windows shattered. Wildlife moved in. The stadium that once held 50,000 screaming fans became home to raccoons, pigeons, and one very confused deer that was photographed on the field in 2007. Man, a deer. On the same field where Babe Ruth stood. That's not just decay. That's poetry. Depressing, horrible poetry. Most of the stadium was demolished between 2008 and 2009, but the playing field itself was preserved. Today, it's a youth baseball diamond called the Corner Ballpark. Kids now hit baseballs on the same dirt where Babe Ruth stood. And somehow that makes it sadder, because the ghost of what this place was hangs over every pitch, every swing. Every crack of the bat echoes against memories that are bigger than anything a youth league can hold. Number 8, Candlestick Park. Candlestick Park, San Francisco, California. the most wind-abused stadium in American history, and the last place the Beatles ever performed live. Candlestick opened in 1960 as the home of the San Francisco Giants. Later, the 49ers moved in. And for decades, this stadium on the edge of San Francisco Bay tortured every single person who visited it, with wind so cold and brutal that attending a night game in July felt like a punishment you hadn't earned. Fans didn't just watch sports here, they survived sports here. Fans wore ski jackets to summer baseball games. Hot dogs got cold before you could eat them. Fly balls changed direction mid-air. The wind at Candlestick wasn't weather. It was a personality. An angry, vindictive personality that hated sports fans. But despite the wind, Candlestick was legendary. Joe Montana threw the catch here. The 1989 World Series earthquake shook this stadium on live television. And on August 29, 1966, the Beatles played their final concert ever on this stage. John, Paul, George, and Ringo performed for 33 minutes and never played a public concert again. Rock and roll history ended right here in the cold San Francisco wind. The 49ers left in 2014 for Levi's Stadium. Candlestick was demolished in 2015. The site is now being developed into housing. The place where the Beatles said goodbye, where Joe Montana became a legend, where an earthquake stopped a World Series. It's gonna be condos. Someone's going to park their Prius where John Lennon stood. And they'll never know. The wind will still blow, though. Some things in San Francisco are eternal. The Beatles aren't one of them. Candlestick isn't one of them. But that stupid wind, that's forever. Number 7, RFK Stadium. RFK Stadium, Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, and one of the most embarrassing abandoned buildings in America, because this stadium sat rotting in the shadow of the United States Capitol building, in full view of Congress, for years, while politicians argued about everything except the giant crumbling stadium in their own backyard. RFK opened in 1961 and was named after Robert F. Kennedy after his assassination in 1968. The Washington Redskins played here for 35 years. The Senators and Nationals played baseball here, concerts, soccer, political rallies. For decades, RFK was the heartbeat of DC sports. Then the teams left. The Redskins moved in 1997, the Nationals in 2008, and RFK just stayed there. Empty, locked. A 56,000-seat concrete monument to government indecision. For years, RFK sat abandoned. Grass grew through the concourse. Paint peeled off every surface. Seats rusted. The press box looked like it survived a war. And all of this was happening blocks from the Capitol building. The most powerful government on earth couldn't figure out what to do with a parking lot and some bleachers. They can launch satellites, but they can't demolish a stadium. Congress can pass a $2 trillion budget, but couldn't figure out how to handle a building with seats in it. Truly inspiring governance. Peak America. RFK was finally demolished in 2024 and 2025. The site is planned for redevelopment, but for almost 2 decades, the nation's capital had an abandoned stadium rotting in its front yard, like leaving a broken washing machine on your porch, except the porch belongs to the president. Number 6, Miami Marine Stadium. Miami Marine Stadium, Virginia Key, Miami, Florida. And this one is genuinely unique because it's not a football or baseball stadium. It's the world's first purpose-built stadium for watching boat races on water, because Miami. The Marine Stadium opened in 1963, a gorgeous concrete grandstand designed for 6,700 people right on Biscayne Bay. Powerboat races, water ski shows, concerts. Jimmy Buffett played here. Gloria Estefan performed here. Richard Nixon even watched boat races from the stands. Presidents watching speedboats. Again, because Miami. Then Hurricane Andrew hit in 1992. The storm damaged the stadium and the city closed it. And here's where it gets ridiculous. They never reopened it. For over 30 years, Miami Marine Stadium has been sitting there, abandoned, covered in graffiti floor to ceiling, vegetation growing through concrete. 30 years of decay on prime Miami waterfront. The stadium has become one of the most photographed abandoned buildings in America. The graffiti is actually famous, layers of street art that some people consider more beautiful than the original stadium. Man, there's something poetic about a water sports stadium slowly being reclaimed by the water it was built to celebrate. The Bay doesn't care about your architecture, it just keeps rising. Only Miami would let waterfront property rot for 3 decades and call it under review. In any other city, this land would have been condos by 1995. In Miami, it's been a 30-year art project that nobody applied for. Number 5, Aloha Stadium. Aloha Stadium, Honolulu, Hawaii. The only major stadium in the entire state, and the former home of the NFL Pro Bowl for over 30 years. Aloha opened in 1975 with a unique design. It was modular, meaning sections could actually move to reconfigure for different sports. Football one week, baseball the next. It was innovative, clever, and for about 20 years it worked great. Then it stopped working. Aloha Stadium aged like milk in the Hawaiian sun. The steel corroded in the salty tropical air. Rust ate through the supports. Concrete crumbled. The modular sections, the ones designed to move, froze in place because the mechanisms rusted shut. A stadium designed to move that literally couldn't move anymore. That's not just irony. That's a metaphor for every gym membership bought in January. By the 2010s, engineers found serious structural problems. Rusted bolts, crumbling concrete, corroded steel. In 2020, officially closed. They were afraid pieces might literally fall on people. Sorry, the stadium is closed because it might collapse on you is a sentence that shouldn't exist. But in Hawaii, where salt air eats metal for breakfast, it was inevitable. Aloha was demolished in 2024. A new stadium is planned, but the image of Hawaii's only major stadium sitting empty and rusting in paradise is hard to forget. Aloha means hello and goodbye, and for this stadium, it was definitely goodbye. The salt air won, the steel lost, and 50,000 seats became 50,000 pieces of scrap metal in the most beautiful place on earth. Number 4, Rubber Bowl. Rubber Bowl, Akron, Ohio. And this is the most visually creepy abandoned stadium on this entire list. The Rubber Bowl was built in 1940 by the Works Progress Administration, one of FDR's New Deal programs during the Great Depression. It was literally built by Americans who needed jobs, for a community that needed something to believe in. The University of Akron football team called it home for decades. It wasn't fancy, it wasn't famous nationally, but for Akron, it was everything. Friday night lights, marching bands, homecoming games, hot chocolate in November. The kind of small-town American football experience that makes people emotional just thinking about it. Then the university built a new stadium in 2009, and the Rubber Bowl was abandoned completely. And here's where it gets eerie. Unlike most stadiums that were demolished within a few years, the Rubber Bowl sat abandoned for over a decade. Trees grew through the bleachers, the press box collapsed, concession stands rotted, scoreboard rusted to nothing. Nature didn't just reclaim the Rubber Bowl, nature conquered it. Like the forest held the team meeting and decided the stadium was now a park. Photos went viral online, trees growing between stadium seats, vines covering entire sections, the press box looking like a haunted house. Urban explorers treated it like a pilgrimage. The Rubber Bowl was finally demolished in 2023. 83 years of history, built by Americans during the Depression, abandoned by Americans during the recession, and demolished by the indifferent. If that's not the most American story you've ever heard, I don't know what is. Built by the desperate, used by the grateful, abandoned by the comfortable, and torn down during the recovery. Number 3, Civic Arena, the Igloo. Civic Arena, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, also known as the Igloo, and the home of one of hockey's greatest dynasties. The Civic Arena opened in 1961 with something no stadium in the world had ever done: a fully retractable stainless steel dome roof. The roof could actually open in 1961. Before the internet, before cell phones, before most people had color TV. Pittsburgh built a stadium with a roof that moved. That's insane. The Pittsburgh Penguins played here from 1967 to 2010. Mario Lemieux skated on this ice. Jaromir Jagr scored goals here. Wayne Gretzky, the greatest hockey player who ever lived, played his final NHL game in this building in 1999. The Penguins won their first Stanley Cup while playing at the Igloo. The arena also hosted concerts, circus shows, and the 1975 ABA All-Star Game. Its dome became one of Pittsburgh's most recognizable landmarks. A silver flying saucer saucer sitting in the middle of the city. Then the Penguins moved to PPG Paints Arena in 2010, and the Igloo was demolished in 2012, despite massive public outcry. Fans protested, petitions were signed, people wept. The site is now a parking lot and mixed-use development. The world's first retractable dome roof, a genuine engineering marvel decades ahead of its time, was torn down and replaced with a place to park your Honda Civic. From retractable roofs to parking meters, from Stanley Cups to Starbucks. They demolished a building that was literally 60 years ahead of its time and replaced it with a building that could have been built 60 years ago. That's not progress. That's regression with better branding. Number 2, Orange Bowl. Orange Bowl, Miami, Florida. And this one is sacred ground for college football fans. The Orange Bowl opened in 1937, and for over 70 years, it was one of the most iconic stadiums in all of American sports. The Orange Bowl game, one of college football's original Big Four, was played here for decades. 5 Super Bowls were played inside this stadium. The Miami Dolphins played here. The Miami Hurricanes dominated college football from this field. This is where Don Shula coached the only undefeated season in NFL history. The 1972 Dolphins went 17-0, where Dan Marino threw bombs. Where the Hurricanes built a dynasty that terrorized college football in the 1980s and 90s. Then the Dolphins moved to what's now Hard Rock Stadium. The Hurricanes followed. And the Orange Bowl, 70 years of football history, was demolished in 2008 to make room for Marlins Park, a baseball stadium that itself struggled with attendance. They tore down a 70-year football cathedral to build a baseball stadium that nobody went to. That's not progress. That's a downgrade with better parking. The only remnants are a time capsule buried on the site and a few preserved seats. Everything else, the field where Shula made history, where Marino launched rockets, where the Hurricanes swaggered, is gone. Under a baseball diamond that averages less than 15,000 fans per game. Man, 70 years of glory, demolished for a stadium with empty seats. The Orange Bowl deserved better. Miami didn't care. 70 years of American football history, traded for a baseball stadium where the loudest sound is the echo of empty seats. The ghost of Don Shula is somewhere shaking his head. Number 1, Houston Astrodome. The Houston Astrodome, Houston, Texas, the 8th wonder of the world, and the saddest abandoned stadium in America. When the Astrodome opened in 1965, it was a revolution. The world's first fully domed, air-conditioned stadium. 66,000 seats. A paradise in a city where summer heat can kill you. And then it accidentally invented something that changed sports forever. The dome blocked sunlight, killing the natural grass. So they created a synthetic replacement, called it AstroTurf, a product used worldwide, born because grass died inside this building. The Astrodome didn't just host sports, it invented the ground they played on. The Houston Oilers played here. The Astros called it home. The Rockets bounced here. Evel Knievel jumped motorcycles inside it. Elvis performed here. Muhammad Ali fought here. Billie Jean King played the Battle of the Sexes here. This building hosted everything. And in 2005, when Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans, the Astrodome sheltered 25,000 evacuees. Even in retirement, it was still saving lives. But the teams left. The Oilers moved to Tennessee. The Astros moved next door. The last event was held in 2008, and since then, the Astrodome has been sitting there, empty, locked, collecting dust and debate. Here's what makes it different from every stadium on this list. They can't bring themselves to tear it down. Demolition proposals voted down. People love it too much, but they can't afford to fix it either. Renovation runs into hundreds of millions. It just sits there, surrounded by modern stadiums, like a retired grandparent who still lives in the house, but can't go upstairs anymore. Too beloved to destroy, too broken to save. The 8th wonder of the world, frozen in limbo, while Houston drives past it every day and looks the other way, pretending it doesn't hurt, but it does. If that's not the most heartbreaking story in American sports, I don't know what is. So there you have it. 10 famous American stadiums abandoned and left to rot. From a Silverdome sold for less than a house to the eighth wonder of the world sitting empty because nobody knows what to do with it. These weren't just buildings. They were where your dad watched his first game, where strangers became family for 3 hours every Sunday. And now they're gone. Or worse, they're still there, empty, waiting. If you've been to any of these stadiums, drop it in the comments and subscribe. More videos like this are coming. See you in the next one. Take care.